must be the only person in the world who notices this. I look at the contracts that are being given out in Major League Baseball right now, and they just seem, man, they're just huge and kind of absurd. I have two examples. Starting pitcher Steven Strasburg. The Nationals just signed him to a 7-year, $245 million contract. That's $35 million a year. Now, he was the World Series MVP. He's a big deal. He's a great pitcher. Obviously, he's in his prime right now. But still, it's wild that he's 31 years old and just got a 7-year contract where every year the next 7 years he's going to make $35 million. He'll be 38 years old when that contract expires. Now, another weird contract, the Yankees gave pitcher Garrett Cole a 9-year, $324 million contract. 9 years. That's $36 million a year for 9 years. Now, he's 29, so he'll also be 38 when this contract is up. The numbers, to me, being given out in baseball are insane. I get it that baseball doesn't have a salary cap, and some teams have a ton of cash to spend. In fact, a lot of people were like, where's all the money coming from? Ratings are, people are going to less games. I don't think people understand how much money baseball makes. Baseball makes bucket loads of money. Baseball, you might not know this, makes more money than the NFL. In 2018, the MLB, Major League Baseball, had $10.3 billion in revenue in 2018. $10.3 billion. Now, for context, the NFL, the more popular on paper, the league that everyone, I would believe the NFL makes more money. Totally false. The NFL, the National Football League, made $8.1 billion. Baseball made $2 billion more than the NFL. Baseball has a ton of money, and I don't think people outside of the baseball world really understand how much money is thrown around in baseball. Still, it's weird to me that is no one going to talk about the fact that there are these just gigantic contracts being given out in Major League Baseball that are so clearly going to end horribly. Steven Strasburg may be really good for the next 4 years, maybe even 5 years. But by year 6 or 7, maybe even year 5 of that contract, he is not going to be the same player. But the problem is you're still going to be paying him $35 million even once he's fallen off a cliff, even once he's no longer the same. And, I just don't. There is a thing here, we'll talk about it in a minute, but we saw a very similar thing with Albert Pujols. Albert Pujols signed a gigantic contract. He fell off a cliff. He's not the same player, but he's still making millions of dollars today, even though physically he's not able to compete at all the way he was years ago. This is an accepted part of baseball I don't understand. I know I'm kind of an outsider. I'm more of a football guy. But, you give a guy a 7-year contract, and by year 4, 5, really by year 5, 6, or 7, the last 3 years of that contract, he's not going to be the same guy. Garrett Cole's contract is even worse. It's a 9-year contract. Garrett Cole could be great till he's 35, still have 3 more years on that contract and be worthless. And what's more surprising to me is baseball fans are totally cool with this, with their team just wasting millions of dollars for at least 3 years on a bad contract that's at least a contract that's going to be bad. It's just this weird phenomenon. You get a guy in his prime, so the next 4 years, Steven Strasburg ideally could be in his prime. Okay, great. But to get the guy in his prime, you have to overly pay him. You have to pay him way more than he's worth in his older years once he's fallen off that cliff. It's like a tax. In order to get the next 4 years of the prime from a player, you also got to pay for the last 3 years of his career, a 7-year total contract where he's just awful at the end of that contract. I don't get it. It's like a star player in their prime tax. I don't have a shorter name to call that. But I just don't get why don't you pay him for 4 years and then, hey, at the end of that 4th year, let's evaluate. Are you still worth $35 million a year? And I get it. That's the market. If the Nationals don't pay him that money, another team will. And the Nationals would rather have him for the next 4 years, even if they're overpaying him for the last 3, to get him in his prime. I understand the economics of it. It's just weird to me that baseball is so accepting of it. Baseball fans are like, that's a great contract. We got it. It's like, but you understand, you're going to be giving him probably around $90 million once he's out of his prime and no longer the great starting pitcher he is now. I don't get it. in other sports, if a guy had 4 years left in his prime, you'd give him a 4-year contract, maybe a 5th year for good measure, and then you would reevaluate. Baseball just seems to throw money away constantly. And I get it. There's a ton of money. That's the culture of baseball. There's no salary cap. But my problem is it's not really a problem. Like, baseball can do whatever it wants. But it seems bizarre to an outsider like me how willing and accepting of this that fans are. We're just going to give money away to a contract that's going to be awful in the final years of that, just giving millions and millions and millions away. I just, frankly, I think it's kind of bizarre. And I just kind of I would really love a guy like John Boy Media or, oh my gosh, this is a guy named David. He was on Survivor, Cagayan. He's an he was a Miami Marlins president. He has like a YouTube show out there. Can I get them on the show? Can I get someone who understands more about baseball to explain to me how this works? Because I frankly am just befuddled why baseball is so accepting of these contracts that are very clearly going to end badly. If you have an insight to that, please leave a comment below. This whole topic is me asking a question. What's going on? Why is this so accepted in baseball to have a contract that's going to end badly and just nobody has a problem with it? We'll just give away $90 million at the end of Steven Strasburg's contract, and it's just totally fine, totally accepted. Is that really the price of having him in his prime? If it is, fine. But to me, that just seems weird, and baseball has a weird culture that other sports just don't have.